Perhaps the real keys to unlocking the truth lay in the clues encoded in masterpieces like The Last Supper, painted by Leonardo himself. Was Leonardo a Grand Master of the Priory of Sion, as Brown's novel suggests? And if so, might he have inserted clues in some of his works as hints of these great mysteries? One of the most intriguing claims made in the book is that the person sitting to Jesus' right hand in the Last Supper is actually Mary Magdalene, his wife, and that the suspicious absence of a chalice or grail on the table is proof that Leonardo himself actually believed Mary to be the grail, in that she carried in her womb the blood of Christ.
The Priory of Sion is a creation of Pierre Athanase Marie Plantard, who comes of humble origins. His parents are working-class folks. He does not distinguish himself in school, and in fact is a bad student, which says nothing bad about him, because many people who've later gone on to excel in life, like Einstein, weren't particularly good students either when they were younger. But he goes on to be a jailbird, and to be a con man, and to be a lot of things that one does not admire. In 1956, he is involved in the organization of the Priory of Sion with another man, and primarily their purpose is to advocate for the rights of those involved in low-income housing at the time. That's what it's created for, the Priory of Sion, in 1956. Later on, through the 60s, he will manufacture a false history trying to say that the Priory of Sion is this, or it dates back to the 1000s, that it was begun by Bernard Saunier, and he really wants to, the whole reason for it is to try to say that he's the descendant of a French king who comes from the Merovingian line. That's what it's for. That's why he's created it. And there have been numerous, prior to the release of even Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which is the book that Dan Brown has plagiarized a lot from. I should mention that, by the way, the three authors, Lee and Bagent and Lincoln, who, by the way, Lee and Bagent is just a rearranging of the names of one of those authors. That's where Lee Teabing's name in the book comes from. But they're suing him for £150 million because they say he's stolen an awful lot of their material. But they are the ones who really put forward these ideas with regard to the Priory of Sion in their book. And these matters had already been settled. There have been TV documentaries to talk about this mystery that turned out not to be much of a mystery. It seemed to be a try to create for myself a wonderful history and be able to claim that I should have some sort of influence or respect on the part of Pierre Plantard. And they were roundly and soundly dismissed as being false, as being manufactured. They tried to plant some so-called ancient documents that were forgeries in a library that held ancient documents, but they'd never been admitted. When the documents were found, they'd never been admitted as part of the library, and it was pretty obviously that they'd been put there as forgeries. So the background of the Priory of Sion is it has no existence prior to 1956. That's pretty significant, because it is from the Priory of Sion that he makes the claim of all these different individuals, Leonardo da Vinci and people like Voltaire and Sir Isaac Newton, who was a devout Christian, and Victor Hugo, as being past abbeys or leaders of the Priory of Sion.
Leonardo was certainly many things: inventor, painter, visionary, and innovator. But Grand Master of the Priory of Sion was not one of those things. As we've seen, the person seated to the right of Jesus in the Last Supper is not a woman, but a man. More specifically, John, Jesus' disciple. John is always depicted as seated at the right hand of Jesus, in the place of honor, or as lying on Jesus' chest. Additionally, John is almost always portrayed as having feminine attributes. Another fact that is often left unconsidered is that Leonardo is famous for his painting of another curiously androgynous figure, John the Baptist. So what should we make of all this? It would seem, despite any personal misgivings about Jesus, the Catholic Church, or even Christianity on the whole, one thing remains true and must be acknowledged. History is fixed and unchangeable. It cannot be altered by pop culture, fads, or even the pen of a master storyteller. And while to his credit, Dan Brown is immensely creative and talented, it is clear that the Da Vinci Code itself is sorely lacking in credibility. It would also seem that on the whole, people nowadays are more apt to accept whatever is being advertised just as long as it comes in a pretty package. We live in an age where the materialistic mentality applies to not only goods and services, but to ideas as well. Oftentimes, how those ideas are marketed has a broad influence over whether or not they will be accepted. On page 341, Brown claims that, quote, every faith in the world is based on fabrication. That is the definition of faith, acceptance of that which we imagine to be true, that which we cannot prove, end quote. Interestingly, he seems to exclude his own Gnostic version of Christianity from this definition of faith, endlessly heaping one misrepresentation on top of another in a fruitless effort to prove his case. In closing, though, I ask you to consider for yourself the question Jesus posed to his disciples: who do you say that I am? It is believed by Christians everywhere that the way you answer this question will affect the way you live the rest of your life, and ultimately where you spend eternity. It's important to remember that what we believe has the power to change our lives, and truth, though sometimes difficult to accept, is more satisfying than that which on the surface pleases the eye or tickles the ear.